Welcome back to the Most Valuable Podcast. My name is Victor Castro with my colleague,
Marc Williams.
and we're just two dudes that do real estate for a living. And today, it is my turn to interview this guy right here, Marc Williams.
Let's do it.
Last time, it was my, pleasure to be able to share a little bit about me. But now it's time to, switch over to Marc. Marc, what's up, man? You ready?
I'm ready. Tables are turned. Let's go. Let's do it.
Cool. So I'm going to ask you a few questions here for, everyone to learn a little bit about you. I think it's very important to be able to share for our viewers that don't know anything about us. We interview other people, but what about us?
Yeah, what about us, man?
Cool. So for everyone that is tuning in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up, and what shaped who you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about myself. Like I said, Marc, like you introduced me, or I said, name's Marc Williams. I actually grew up here in the Bay Area. I'm actually a second-generation San Franciscan. I was born on January 5th, 1982 on Cesar Chavez Street in the Mission, St. Luke's Hospital. And we spent some time in the avenues. As I got a little bit older, my parents were renting a home in Daly City, like off of Skyline, and Skyline in Southgate, if you're familiar with the peninsula. So like literally the water, we had like the Skyline, which is Highway 1, at our backyard. So I was maybe like a 10-minute drive to Ocean Beach.
So you literally had the freeway behind you?
Yeah, the freeway was behind Highway 1, which is the Great Highway, which you can no longer drive down. But at the Daly City part of it was behind us. So it was like the highway behind us, and then there's a neighborhood, and then the ocean. One of my good buddies, his house, the homes across the street from him fell off the cliff, or they tore them down because they were falling off the cliff. So that's how close I lived to the water. And we lived in that first house, man, forever. I went to a elementary school called M.H. Tobias. Crazy part is I went to the same elementary school. So my younger sister, me, my older brother, and my mom all went to the same elementary school. So we grew up there. I was there for a little bit. Then we moved a little bit on the Daly City, South San Francisco border while I was in high school. I went to El Camino High School in South San Francisco. And then for a quick minute, my parents actually bought, speaking of real estate, and we do real estate here in Contra Costa County, my parents actually bought a brand new build in Antioch in 1998. And I went to Deer Valley High School, the second year of its existence, for one semester. I went to the first ever nighttime football game at Deer Valley. Like they put the lights
brand
up.
New stadium
brand
and
new
everything.
Stadium. School looked totally different,
Yeah.
right? And then, parents separated, moved back to, me and my dad actually moved to San Bruno, and then I finished school at El Camino. And then I grew up, for college, went down to Cal Poly Pomona for a little bit. And then I ended up finishing at San Francisco State. So, like I said, been in the Bay Area like almost majority of my whole life. Couple years here and there in SoCal. I've lived in the East Bay, the South Bay, the Peninsula, San Francisco. Actually lived in the North Bay, Marin County for a little bit. Haven't lived in Solano County. That's probably like the only county I haven't lived in. And, my parents, your typical 1980s, I guess you would call it middle-class family. Both parents worked. My dad worked for the San Francisco School District in the environmental department. My mom, she had some oddball jobs here and there, but eventually she found her niche in like medical management. She would manage like clinics and stuff like that. And they both worked 9 to 5s, and and then we saw them when they got off of work. We ate dinner together, and made sure homework was done. And life was good back then, man. You come home when being a boy too, like come home when the street lights come on and stay out of trouble, but do what you do.
So California is, predominantly what you know.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know any other states other than California.
For living in, I've traveled, but yeah, for the most part, like And then California is like home,
Gotcha.
Yeah, born and raised.
What was your major?
So I had a couple different majors. When I first went to Cal Poly, I majored in architecture. So I was a major in architecture. I did that for about a year. And then, you know what? It was crazy, man. It's a funny story. So I wanted to be architect. I always I liked wood shop. Um, I'm not the best artist, but I like conceptual art, right? And I always had like this weird fascination with like building stuff, like whether it was building a fort for my GI Joes, or like I used to watch in high school. I would watch like Bob Villa or Villa, Bob
Oh yeah,
Villa.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
used to be like before
Uh-huh.
HGTV, before Chip and Joanna Gaines. It was Bob Villa, right? And it was like I forgot it was called Home something. And they would just do like random construction on homes and stuff like that. I would literally watch that, bro. It was weird. I just had interest in it. So I was like, well, why don't I put two and two together? I have an interest for like building, and I have an interest for design. So I want to be architecture major. And I only applied to 3 schools. I applied I only applied to 2 schools, the 2 Cal Polys, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which everybody knows about, and then Cal Poly Pomona. And Cal Poly San Luis Obispo said, "You're not smart enough." I said, "Okay, well, screw you then."
Why? What
I
was
don't know. I didn't get in. They didn't.
you didn't have the quote unquote grades?
Nah, I mean, I was pretty smart in school. I wasn't valedictorian, but I was like, if we had like 5 valedictorians in my high school.
Mm.
I was probably the runner up, I had really good grades. I guess the only class I didn't do great in was French. Right? But everything else was like A's. I don't know. Maybe my SAT score wasn't high enough. And then Cal Poly Pomona said, yes, you're accepted, but our architecture program is full. So you can choose another major or come in undeclared. Excuse me. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna waste all this money just to like not do what I want to do. So I said, you know what, screw that. I'm gonna join the Air Force because my dad was in the Marines and my grandpa was in the Air Force. So I said, I'm gonna join the service. So like honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. My last semester of high school, like that last. So we were semesters, but they broke it down in like quarters, right? We weren't year round school. It was like September to June. So you apply to college, you take your SATs, come like what was that, April, you start applying. I think like April-ish, you start getting your acceptance letters and stuff. And once I got that, I kind of said, man, to hell with this. I just show up. I would show up to school. I just wouldn't do anything. I would just sit there and chill. Like we didn't have cell phones. I just like take a nap or zone out. I really didn't care about my grades because I was like, who cares? I already knew I was graduating. I wasn't failing the classes, but I already knew I was graduating, and I just didn't really have any drive. I said, what's the point? I'll just join the Air Force. I was like talking to the recruiter. I didn't sign up yet, but I was like full steam about to be in the Air Force. And then, and like, it was crazy. It was like mid-May, I got another letter from Cal Poly Pomona, and they said, congratulations, you've been accepted to the architecture program. And they only accept 50 students. Back then, they only accepted 50 applicants a year out of 10,000 applicants. They're like, you got in. So I must have been on the list. I must have been high up on the list. And when someone dropped out, I got in.
Gotcha.
So I told the recruiter, I was like, hey, I'm not joining the Air Force. I went to every teacher and said, hey, this is the reason I didn't care about your class, but can I do makeup work?
That's
And they were
funny.
cool. They liked me. So I did a bunch of makeup work and still graduated with the high GPA that I needed to get in. And yeah, rest is history, man. We went there. We liked it. Um, One thing I would say though, we had a class. So the first ever architecture class was um, you're in a lab class with it's architecture majors, urban planners, landscape architects. So there's like 120 people in the class, and there's like 4 different professors. And they start the main professor like leads it, and he's like, "Who's an architecture major here?" And all 50 of us raise our hand. And he said, "Only 2 of you will ever in your life design a building. The rest of you will be working for a firm." And I was like, "Wow, way to burst my dream." Fuck, dude.
What?
Pardon my language. Like, okay, this is what I'm down here for.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, that kind of sucks. Like, I'm thinking I'm gonna be designing.
It's
I knew that you have to work your way up, but you know what I'm saying? Like to say like I'll never design something ever. It's like, well, what's the point of doing this?
right, right.
So I did really good. The crazy part is I did really good in the classes. Um, I just kind of like I kind of got disinterested with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
So that's crazy because I was gonna ask you right now, like, what's a personal passion or experience outside of real estate that influences you, how you approach your work, and
yeah.
that kind of like I think that's a good
I
segue
mean,
to
I
that.
approach my work there, I set a goal, right? Like, and, the influences is, watch being part, if we struggled, I didn't know about it. My parents did a good job of, making sure that we were fed and had a nice house and lived in good neighborhoods and stuff like that. Were we rich? Absolutely not. Were we poor? Absolutely not. But, I know, everyone goes through struggles. I know, now what I know now is like, I know the first home my parents ever bought, they ended up short selling. I know what that means now, right? It means they weren't doing so hot to be able to make that payment, right? So, um, it's things like that that shape me. Like I see all the hard work they put into it to provide, and did they ever reach their full potential? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think my parents, unfortunately they passed at an early age, both of them, but I don't ever think they ever fully reached what their dreams were. So, knowing that, like that pushes me is like I want to get to a point where I know I'm like, all right, I did what I did. I did what I did. Now it's time to, strive for something else. But yeah, to your point, it's like that class really shaped me too. It's like, that always sticks with me. Is like, damn, this dude just said I'm always gonna be like in the rat race. Like the odds are
Yeah, didn't give you
low.
much hope at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and maybe he took that from a stat. Maybe there's a stat that's
oh, he's legit. Like I know
yeah.
people in the industry, like he's 100% correct.
Gotcha.
I'm glad like he set expectations, which was cool. Just kind of bummed to do it to an 18-year-old that's like wide-eyed and super excited. I'm in Southern California. That school Pomona is dope. Like it's way doper now, but it for all my old heads out there, if you ever watch this movie Gattaca, it's this movie. God, I'm forgetting the guy's uh the cop in Training, the one with, Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke in Training Day, the white cop in Training Day, he's, in this movie Gattaca, and it's about the future and about the rat race and stuff, but one of the buildings they use in that movie is, like, a very futuristic building that's on the campus of Pomona. So they're known for architecture, um, they're known for, like, art and all that stuff, so I was at the right school. And then you just kinda like, boop, pop the
Bursts
bubble.
your bubble. Yeah, yeah. Wow, man. Well, you know, how did that inspire you to pursue a career into real estate? Because that's obviously very different.
Yeah, man, real estate, it's crazy kinda how I got into it. It's I definitely somewhat similar path that a lot of people I talk to got into real estate. I would say somewhat similar to you to an extent, right? Like, you weren't planning on doing it, but you kinda have a background, and in your case, it was like customer service and sales, and you're like, "Well, instead of working for someone, maybe I can work for myself." For me, it was, I got my degree. I ended up finishing at San Francisco State in something totally different. I did radio and television, which was what my grandpa did. Out of the Air Force, he was involved in like radio and TV in Chicago, in LA, and then in San Francisco, right? Like three major markets. So kind of always something I had an interest in. And when I realized that architecture wasn't going to be a thing and my parents didn't want to pay for my schooling anymore, I said, hey, since I'm paying for it, I'm just going to do something that interests me. And that's what I got my degree in, you know. But living in the Bay Area, having hopes and dreams and degrees doesn't pay rent and food and car payment. And as you become an adult, medical and all that stuff. So I got a job out of retail. I got into banking, which is basically retail anyways, but like financial retail, a little bit more professional. I got into banking. I started off as like a junior banker, and then after getting my degree, I kind of fast tracked to doing business, like business banking, helping small businesses set up, maintaining business relationships, and then that eventually took me to like the management route, right? So I was a bank manager for, man, over 10 years, and moved up the corporate ladder to an extent, and then one day corporate came knocking on my door and said, "Hey, we pay you too much. We don't need you anymore. We're gonna find someone cheaper." It's basically what they said.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the company I was with for a long time. I got canned for no reason. Like I probably had like a lawsuit, but it wasn't even worth
Which is
the.
very common in the corporate
Yeah,
world.
I mean, you're technically at will employment, so it's kind of hard to file like a wrongful, termination. Maybe it's a little bit easier now, but this was almost 10 years ago, right? So I was like, "You know what? Whatever." Like, I didn't see myself doing that forever anyways. Um, and once I left that company, I bounced around from a couple banks just to like buy time to figure out what I wanted to do because I was still I knew I was good at what I did. And uh, we moved out to East Contra Costa County, and I got tired of commuting, and I'm like, dude, what can I do? Like, I don't want to work for anybody. I'm tired of working for people. Like, I feel like everyone I worked for, I felt like I should be their boss.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. I'm the know-it-all guy, but I really do know it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it was just like I was way more. I felt like I was at a position in my career within that industry, the banking industry, where I was smarter than the people that were managing me. I knew how to manage better, but I didn't want to kiss butt in order to get those positions. Because the next step up in corporate, you have to kiss major butt,
Yeah,
so to
well,
speak.
yeah, in most
Not literally.
in
Oh, maybe literally
in most
sometimes.
corp regardless of the industry that you're in the corporate world, that's usually how it works.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, dude. Like, I'm just not a sheep. And once they find out you're
We're lions.
yeah, we're lions for
We're
real.
lions.
Once they find out that you're not a sheep, they feel threatened and they try to keep you in a certain position. And that's when, if you're listening to this, that's when you need to get out and
Yeah.
do something else. Go be a lion,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, I'm gonna go be a lion. Let's do real estate.
That's a good
you,
industry
you know what I'm saying? It's like, look,
to be a lion in.
customer service,
Yeah.
I'm great at. I coach people on customer service. Sales, great at. I'm selling investments and finances. You're giving me money. I always say, you gave me money and walked out my door with nothing in your. You walked out with less and have nothing to show for it. Just hopes and dreams that I don't screw it up,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You walk in, I hand you keys to a house. You see where your money went. With me in the banking, you don't see where your money went. You just look at the numbers and goes up and down,
Yeah.
right? So cool, that's easy. And then I like I mentioned back in the day, I like buildings. I like
Right.
construction and
Right,
stuff.
right.
So it kind of tied
Ties
all
in.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of tied all that together. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. And
Mm.
knocked the test out, and here I am, 8 years later.
Cool, man. And from all that experience that you accumulated prior to getting into real estate and then after getting into real estate, what's the most rewarding thing that you've came across in real estate?
You know what? The most rewarding thing is knowing that I'm a part of over 100 people's, like, their timeline of their life. There's a lot of unforgettable moments in your life, and then there's a lot of memorable moments. But, like, what are some of the biggest moments that stand out if you were to create a timeline for someone's life? Their birth, maybe the birth of their siblings, if they have siblings, graduating high school, maybe graduating college, getting married, their first kid, their second kid, buying their first home, buying their car. Like there's those moments in time that people will never forget. And I'm able to be a part of a dozen or so of those every year.
Right. Yeah,
That's
no,
pretty cool.
that's very impactful. How many people do we know that have, the ability to witness those moments? It's
Yeah.
very self-rewarding, especially when you know that they're getting a great deal on the home, or maybe they're about to make a whole bunch of, equity. Like
Yeah.
maybe they bought it at a like well below market value or something like that. So I completely like get that part too,
Yeah.
man. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, man.
And like obviously through those experiences, there has to be some challenges.
Oh, most definitely.
Tell us a little bit about those challenges. Maybe one or two that have been the most challenging for
Yeah,
you.
I would say in the grand scheme of things, one of the biggest challenges is, not taking things personal. I think too many agents in this industry take things personal. At the end of the and what I mean by that is, like, you not winning on a home, or maybe your client not 100% taking your advice, right? And maybe, um, you may not like the home, but they like the home type of thing, right? So, you kinda gotta you gotta understand this is their moment, and you gotta understand that the other person on the other side of the transaction, that's their moment when they're selling it, and, things like that happen, and don't take it to heart, like, move on, move forward. I would say some of the most challenging thing, if I can pinpoint one thing in real estate, is just not giving up on n trying to take my business to the next level.
Yeah,
That's a day in, day out challenge, because I think you mentioned this in the last episode, and I'll just reiterate it. Like, this is a cutthroat business, and it's not all peachy keen, right? And there's struggles. And if someone's on there online never showing a struggle, they're probably struggling the most, right?
100%. Yes,
And not saying that I'm not successful at what I do, because in the grand scheme of things, like in the big picture, we're very successful at real estate. I just know I can be even better. And it's hard. It's a challenge not to you always want to set the bar higher, and I'm so excited when I see somebody that I equally respect kinda take that jump in their career. The challenge is, when is that jump gonna happen for me?
for me. Yeah, I mean,
And knowing that it is gonna happen, and that I just gotta keep focused.
like maybe our viewers don't know, but we have conversations of this all the time. How are
Yeah,
we going to take MVP real estate to the next
to the
level?
next level.
It's not just a team thing; it's a personal thing
Yeah,
too. Because we're both, like we mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier, we're lions,
yeah,
right? We don't take failure lightly. Or actually at all.
yeah.
We just don't fail.
I don't accept
We
failure.
don't accept failure, and so how are we going to take it to the next level is another
And we're
question,
trying. I
right?
mean, don't get me wrong. That's one thing that I appreciate with working with you is, man, we try it. We plan, we execute, and I think there's some things we can do a little bit better as far as like after the execution, but it's not for a lack of trying, and I'm okay with that. It's not for a lack of
Sometimes you
trying.
gotta try 100 times,
You gotta try 100
right?
times.
So, what would you say is a specialty? We kinda mentioned a little bit of the challenges, but what is a specialty? What's something that you do very well in real estate?
Remember stuff. Like, I've always had a knack. I always joke, and my wife gets mad because I know all these random facts. How remember Snapple used to have the little quotes underneath the caps, Snapple facts? Like, I just always been good at retaining information. So, I'm very good, like, when a situation happens, or I hear about a situation, or let's just say I do a deal in one neighborhood, and I learn about that neighborhood and the different models of the homes and how the construction was, who was the builder, blah, blah, blah. I'll remember that forever.
So
So,
you're
like,
able to
yeah,
reiterate it to the
yeah. And
client.
like now in year 8, there's probably not a neighborhood in the Bay Area that I haven't looked shown a home in 8 years. I mean, didn't say transact. Like, I haven't closed the deal in every neighborhood, but there's probably not a single neighborhood in the Bay Area that I haven't showed a client a house in. Because, I just don't limit we're not I just don't limit myself to doing deals in Concord to Brentwood. We do deal being a San Francisco kid, like Peninsula. Uh, I worked in the North Bay for many years, so I know that whole area. Solano County, we're close to. So we go all over the place. So within the Bay Area, I've probably shown a home in each neighborhood, and I'm at the point now when clients send me homes, I go, oh yeah, that's that neighborhood. Blah 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 blah. you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Would you say has today's technology helped you with that?
Yeah. I mean, uh, Justin, you said it before, like AI. I'm big. I've been incorporating it more for like a tool to like navigate. I've actually been using it to navigate like search engines better. It's a better search engine. Even Google is like incorporating it into their search. You can do an AI search now. So I've been incorporating into that. Um, I think we should start. We're probably going to start using it for building out stuff a little bit quicker. But if you're not using technology, like you have to. You know, I was born. I'm like the last gener. I know I'm technically, and I'm a millennial, but us early '80s, we call ourselves Zennials because
Mhm.
we're kind of that transition from analog to digital. Like we remember VHS tapes, we remember cassette tapes. My first video game system was
Atari?
Atari, right? Like I saw the advancements from Atari to Nintendo to Genesis
Super
to
Nintendo.
Dreamcast to PlayStation. Like I seen the advancements of things.
Hey, man, I'm not too far from you,
You're not
okay?
too far from me, but 6 years. Like what I'm getting at is like I've seen like we
Yeah,
kind of were part of that transition.
yeah.
Um, where we didn't always have computers like in the classrooms and stuff like that, right? Um, so you have to like the cool part is it's easy for me to pick up on stuff, but I'm still learning. There's so much out there,
Man, I
dude. You can't keep up.
I still remember the first Macintosh computer that I used. I was,
Oh,
like,
dude,
in 3rd grade, 4th grade.
they were crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out to Oregon Trail and Carmen San Diego, bro. Those are the games.
Right on, man. So, let me ask you another question.
Yep.
What's the best advice you would give to someone that's starting out in real estate?
Feet first. Don't dip your toe. I've seen some people online, some uh real estate team people that have team leads saying, "Oh, I'm not saying quit your job to get your license. I got my license while I was still working. Advice number 1, don't quit your job until you get your real estate license.
Yeah.
The course you can do the courses online. If you're really committed, you can knock it out in 45 days. If you study for the test, which that's another tip, study for the test. Whatever's in the book is not in the test. Okay? Take the practice test over and over and over and over again. Take one practice. When you're done with your courses and you're able to enroll in the test, set the test for 2 weeks out. Every day for 14 days, you need to take one practice test. Okay? Regardless of what your score is. All right, take one practice test. And they make those practice tests hard on purpose.
You can actually apply for some, right? Or
Yeah, well, most courses
enroll
will
in some
give 'em, yeah.
practice.
Do them online, right? Because you take the test on the computer. And, their practice tests are like 100 questions, okay? It's going to take you an hour and a half. Closed book. Take the practice test. And, however you do your studying, do the studying you do. But if you're scoring around 60 to 70% on the practice test, you'll pass the test. Because when you don't, then you fail the test and you got to schedule it again. And then, okay, look, on average, most people take twice to pass the test, right? You can do it in once. I did it once. And I took that test. I walked out. I did it in 45 minutes. I knew I passed. It's not hard. It's a memorization thing.
Yeah.
But if you just, I passed the classes. I crammed the day before, you'll fail the test. Keep your job until you pass the test. Then they tell you need 6 months of reserves. You need like a year. And jump feet first. Because what happens? You'll dip your toe in. What we see during COVID, Victor? Dipped your toe. So many agents dipped their toe in. Things were great. Nothing could go wrong. Money was just pouring into the economy artificially. Everything was cheap. And people were doing deals left and right. Yeah, where are those people today? You know, jump feet first because give yourself an opportunity to fail and to learn from your failure and then to, grow because you're going to fail. You're going to have failure. I'm hoping you have less failure, but you got to go. If you want to do this for a living, you got to be in it for a living. I think when you dip your toe, you'll get some extra money here and there, and that's not bad, but you can't call yourself a realtor. You're someone that has a real estate
Yeah,
license.
definitely. I would just for me personally to add on something to that is you got to be prepared to not make money for a while.
Yeah, a year. Have a year reserve to pay your bills and to eat. Okay?
Yeah, that's great advice,
That's
man.
it.
Great advice. So yeah, man. I mean, we learned a
Uh,
little.
let me
Okay,
one last thing. If you're giving financial advice on how to help people buy homes,
and you don't
you
know one.
should be able to learn how to save yourself.
Well, not only that. I mean, I personally have and this is controversial. If you're gonna get someone into a home, you better own a home yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent on that. My pushback on that is if someone gets into this career early, they may not be in a position to buy a home, but your number one goal for
Should be.
helping people is because the more people you help, and this is my last advice. If I was an agent, a young agent, or a new agent, I don't even say young. If I was a new agent and I wasn't a homeowner, but I was trying to earn the trust of clients, and I would let them know that I wasn't a homeowner, and I would tell them the more people I can help get into a home
It's gonna.
puts me in a position to get to my dream of being a homeowner just like you.
That's great advice,
Yeah,
bro. Like
cool. Y'all can send me your
great
payments
advice.
for that lesson later. I'll put my Venmo up here after.
Awesome, man. So now that we know a little bit more about you and how you got into real estate and your challenges and learn what you're good at, let's talk about what you foresee in the near future
Hmm.
in the career in the next 5-10 years. Where do you think real estate is going?
Well, I think real estate is here to stay. There's been so many companies that have tried to streamline the process, Redfin, Zillow, just to name a few, Open Door. Um, like no one talks about how much money Zillow and Open Door lost from trying to streamline the process during COVID, buying homes sight unseen, trying to sell them sight unseen. I mean, my brother and my sister-in-law took well advantage of their, I guess, fumbling the ball and got a great deal on a home in Henderson in Nevada. I think Open Door bought it for 80 grand more than what they paid for it
Oh wow,
within like 3 months.
wow, that's a great
So
deal.
it's one of those things. Like, I don't think you can take the human aspect out of real estate. Now, where I see it going is two ways. You're gonna have those. You have those that are in it to actually do real estate as a career, and then there's those that now with social media do it as a platform to get Instagram famous. Not saying either is bad. You can make money doing both, but I think that blurs the line to the consumer of what we're all about. So,
100%. It dilutes the industry.
yeah, I think with anything, there's always like a reset. There's always like a reset, and things during tough times, usually things go back to the fundamentals. And I think we're seeing that transition right now where quality of service, knowledge, experience is kind of outweighing trendiness. I'll
No,
just leave it at
great,
that.
great way to put it. No, great way to put it. Lastly, man, where do you see your own career going moving forward? What's the legacy you hope to leave in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like in the industry, I don't really have like, oh, I want to be, the next Ryan Serhant or someone that reinvented the wheel in the industry. I think for me personally, like looking back at the career, when if I was to look back at like my real estate career, one personally be like, I did it right. Like I was successful. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And I was able along the way to touch many people's lives. I always say, like, you know, when the day of reckoning comes for Mark, I want that a church or wherever my funeral is held, I want it to be packed. I don't want 5 people in the audience. you know, anyone that's able to go. So that's how I always like strive to do things. As far as like where I see myself working with you, Victor, and getting MVP to the next level, I feel like we're right on the edge of greatness. What we would consider greatness for us, and we're right there, man. Like, and to be able to take that business 10x the business, whatever you want to call it, to the next level. I think we'll be able to do that hopefully, any day now. I don't think we're years away. I think we're weeks away from this snowballing to what we envision it. Uh, and I can see MVP as a company that's here to stay. Now, my involvement in that company may get less. My goal being 43, I have a personal goal of retiring at 50. Like, not fully retiring, but being able to spend time with my family and kids and have built a business that has somewhat of an exit plan where I can still be involved. I can still be involved with my clients. I can still make money off the business, but also have my other streams of revenue to be able to kind of like take it a little bit more easy, right?
Yeah.
Not work 90 hours a week.
Which is it's an amazing goal. I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I've learned a lot from you in that aspect too. Exit strategy is necessary in
Yeah, and
anything you do.
I've always said I'd never want to fully retire. I'm always somebody that likes to help, whether it's people in the industry or continue to do real estate. I guess I'll cross that bridge when it comes. Hey, do I just fully exit MVP and it's all yours, Victor, pay me out? Or do I say, hey, I'm going to be part, I still want to be involved. This is what I can deliver. And then maybe go out and help and be more like a consultant. I always saw myself, I'd be a good consultant for like, go to different teams,
Yeah.
look at their strategy, see what's working for them, seeing what's not, like give them guidance. However, in order to do that, I have to have the track record,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're trying to build right now.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. No, you will. I think that sums up it all, man. Any other last words that you want to, say before we wrap it up?
no, yeah. I mean, we appreciate everybody that takes the 30 to 40 to an hour to listen to our podcast. This is a little bit about myself. You learned a little bit about Victor on the last one. And if you're not a real estate agent, if you're someone looking to buy or sell a home, man, like give us a chance.
Give us a
Hey,
shot.
always be closing, bro. I'm closing on this
That's what's up.
podcast. Give us a chance because you will not be disappointed.
Disappointed.
I
Well,
can guarantee that.
that's awesome, man. Well, that's great. I think that sums it up. Thank you for opening up
Yeah,
and sharing a
of
lot of
course.
information as well. Private and everything in between. So I think that sums it up. And remember, we look forward to winning with you.